Howdy partners. Today I was going to have a quick run through of some of my past bikes and what I thought of them. The first bike I ever owned was a CB250. Not an R, no R's in the name anywhere, just a CB250. Didn't even have an F at the end, just a CB250. And of course it was just simply for commuting, getting around, learning how to ride a motorcycle. Did have a few oil leaks, but generally uninspiring, just a bike. I then moved on to a CX500 Honda, the Shadow. And people at this point I'm sure are laughing. CX500, the most low horsepower 500cc motorcycle you can buy. Whilst a friend of mine had an RGV 500, and which was the most powerful 500cc bike that you can buy at the time. And of course we used to go riding together, and it wasn't much fun for me, but I enjoyed my touring. I enjoyed touring around, and the CX500 was a comfortable bike at cruising around, so it suited me at the time. After the CX500, first I bought my first real all-purpose bike, and it was a machine. It had a common fault, or a design flaw, I guess you could say, that when parked on the side stand, in the rain, water would run off the tank onto the heads, across the rocker cover, and pull against the #1 spark plug cap. And with a bit of age, these spark plug caps would leak, and water would get in there, and you'd start it up and you'd be missing the #1 cylinder. So I'm wondering at this point, do people know what bike I'm talking about? Well, I think those that have owned this bike would know. It's the GPZ 900. Mine was blue and silver, 86 model, I believe. Yeah, I thought that bike was the bee's knees. It really suited my driving style well, my riding style well. Did everything I needed to do. Long distance rides, Melbourne to Queensland and back. And except for the design flaw, it really didn't miss a beat. It was a really good bike. And then in 1992 they released the GPZ 1100, re-released because it had been released previously. I put 160 odd thousand kilometres on that bike, never missed a beat, just commuting and long distance rides. Yeah, good bike, nothing much to say about it except reliable and comfortable and unsporty. So after the GPZ 1100 I thought, well, I seem to be sticking with this style of bike, let's go to the ultimate in this style of bike. That is, cruising, a bit of pace, the Suzuki Hayabusa. That was an impressive bike. I don't think I'm going to escape this rain. Woo! And there it is. Oh, a cold trickle of water that's penetrated my fly. It was inevitable. It's not overly enjoyable. So, the Suzuki Hayabusa. Fast. Handled quite well. A few mods can make them handle even better. Comfortable. They just do everything well. They do the speed thing. Tram tracks are actually slippery in the wet. They do everything that they're designed to do well. Then I moved on to a 2001 model GSXR 750, which was a lot of fun. Quite the opposite of the Hayabusa. You had to work to keep that thing at speed, and yet it went around corners magnificently. It handled very, very well. Not sure what else I can say about the GSXR 750. It was just your run-of-the-mill sports bike, which, you know, anything sort of post 2000 model really is a good bike. It all came down to looks after that point. You know, they all rode better than most people could handle. And then I bought my Motard and everything that comes with a Motard. The fun, the slowness in a straight line, because around the corners they're still pretty quick. They're still very quick. I've certainly taken on some sports bikes up in the hills, and they've said, holy crap, how did you keep up? Or how did you get past? Oh, well, I'm not going to talk much about the Motard because I'm riding it now, and you're going to hear bits and pieces about it for all of eternity. But then my Motard was broken down at one point, and I really needed another bike quickly, so I looked through the paper, and I just grabbed a bike that was a reasonable price and fuel economical, so I thought, which turned out to be the VFR 400. Now that was the surprise package of my life. The bike was really, you know, it went quite well. It was a 400. Probably went better than my CX500, that's for sure. Yeah, so it had a bit of power, but that puppy handled. It felt like the center of gravity was on the ground. Extremely light up the top. Like the motor, I'm not sure what the geometry of it really is, but the motor, I think, sits really low in the cradle, and wow, it really has a low center of gravity and handled like an absolute dream. Yeah, it really handled beautifully, and I bought it with crappy tyres, and the suspension was all flogged out, and it was much too light for my frame. It was built for small Japanese people, I think. And a beautiful little whine from the cam-driven cams, gear-driven cams. I believe was supposedly for reliability. No, this bike, I mean, it was a grey import, 1980 something. Magnificent. Anyone looking at getting one, if you've considered a VFR 400, get one. I wouldn't hesitate. The biggest issue actually is that the model that I was riding was not LAMS approved. It had, I believe, 41mm carbies, while the RVF, the newer RVF 400. They dropped the carby size and that brought it back into the Lambs approved category, which makes them actually a lot more expensive. They had better that upside down forks and everything on the newer models. Much better bike all around, but slightly less horsepower. Not that that should really worry a learner. VFR 400. I'd recommend one.